Hello, this is Patrick from Heavy Therapy, and
This is Cody from Metal Miners. Cheers.
yeah, and we are here to do our to discuss our favorite albums of the year so far. And my cutoff was exactly the end of June. I don't know if that was your cutoff, Cody.
It was not. I have some relatively new
Oh,
ones,
okay. There you go. It
unfortunately.
is. No, that's cool. I just did a cutoff to make it easier for my, when I was saying what's included or not. So yeah, we're going to just try to discuss 10 or so releases that we feel are the strongest heavy extreme metal albums of the year so far. And yeah, let's do it, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
All right. So my number 10 is a band that I only heard about this year. I think they have one other album, and they are called Golgothan Remains. And the album is called Adorned in Ruin. And they're from Australia. And it's sort of like Immolation meets Ulcerate, like dissonant atmospheric death metal with kind of some crazy a crazy vocal approach. Like it's mostly kind of like a typical low guttural, but then there are some like weird chants that happen, and kind of some like higher pitched screams that happen. So a lot of variety in the vocals, and I love that style of death metal for me. That like very dissonant, atmospheric, dark uh, death metal is some of my favorites. So yeah, again, haven't heard that many people talk about it, but Metal Twitter actually has a small community that talks about this album. Golgothan Remains, Adorned in Ruin. Have you heard of this, Cody?
I have not. Um, it's actually a good point to make for me, at least. Um, if anyone has watched Metal Miners, they would know that my dad, he's the death metal guy.
Right.
Um, I so much is, I mean, I listen to a little death metal, but very little do I latch on to. So I believe I've got around 10, I think 13 on my list. Unfortunately, none are physical. My plan is to share my screen and just take you to the Metal Encyclopedia page. There are a few of the projects that actually don't have one, um, but most of my list is going to be, I believe it's 10 or 11 black metal albums, EP splits,
Okay.
demos. I have two Dungeon Synth releases as well.
There you go.
So as far as I can remember, I don't think there's any death metal on my
Good.
list. So we'll definitely have different stuff to show. Maybe
Right.
some overlap, maybe not. We haven't exchanged, lists or anything. So yeah, let me get right into mine. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So basically what I'll do is share my screen for each one, and then I'll just take it off, and then it'll be back to me in Pack talking. So let's go ahead and share my screen, and just let me know if you can't see the metal archives, if you would. Okay, can you see this, Pat? Got it? Okay. So my first band is called Pagan Moon from Salt Lake City, Utah. Actually, the release I'm going to talk about is 5 years of anti-Mormon propaganda. Obviously, a compilation. What brought me to this project, one, I mean, it should be obvious. Anti-Mormon propaganda, that just sounds insane. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, I got to check this out. And let me just tell you, I mean, look how cult that cover is too, by the way. this is a totally sick release. I enjoyed every song on this album, or compilation rather. This might be my favorite of 2022 so far. Um, Starting out with one of my favorites, I guess. There was, not one moment that I really, found any lulls or anything. Um, as far as the music goes, it's very just like true, kind of cult black metal. One man band, um, and was released on July 8th of 2022. I have seen some physical copies of this, some LPs. Um, I'm not quite sure where they're coming from, but I'm certainly looking to get myself a copy because that I think is a great release.
Is the production like really raw?
No, it's more polished. It's definitely more along the lines of like just second wave black metal. It doesn't really get into that raw so much. Um, generally with raw black metal, I'm a little more exclusive as to what I like. I found that it's kind of the same thing with dungeon synth. A lot of it, um, for lack of a better word, is just like bullshit sometimes. Um, but the ones that are good are really good, in my opinion.
Right.
But it just has like a really high chance to be something that I don't really enjoy as far as raw black metal goes.
Right.
But yeah, I do have some on this list, but I wouldn't say that's my favorite, subgenre of black metal.
Right.
But
Cool.
yeah, it's definitely something that if you're familiar with any second wave band, you should be able to digest
Okay.
fairly easily.
Cool. Yeah, I love that name. That name is definitely the album title is very intriguing.
Yeah.
Sure.
I haven't heard of any anti-Mormon
Yeah, I know, right?
black metal. It's usually anti-Christianity.
Well, I like that it's getting specific about which branches of Christianity, right? It's getting it's focused.
Exactly, yeah.
The blasphemy is focused. Okay.
The blasphemy is focused. Shout out Joseph Smith.
Right. Okay, so yeah, like Cody said, my list is predominantly death metal, but I do have a couple of black metal albums here, so that's fun. So number 9 is a band that I just mentioned, Immolation, Acts of God. Just Bob's. Every Immolation album sounds very similar, and for some bands that like can grow stale, but it never has for me when it comes to Immolation. It is a bit long. It's like 15 tracks, almost 50, like 54, 55 minutes of music, but I really just like the aggressive riffs, the dissonant riffing style of Bob. All kinds of bands try to sound like Immolation, and they like my previous choice actually, but that's because Bob has a distinct guitar style. Those dissonant notes at the end of a bar that he always does. But just solid death metal album, old school death metal album from Immolation, who's been around since I've been alive. They've been around since like 1987, and I like all of their releases. And yeah, this album is impressive. Awesome, amazing drum performance. Immolation is Immolation. That's my number 9.
One of the few death metal albums that I had listened to and really enjoyed.
Right.
Obviously, like you said, it's Immolation. Everybody knows them. I will say, sadly, I haven't listened to all of their discography, but everything I've listened to, I've thoroughly enjoyed. And they're just one of the staples in death metal, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah. So next up for me is actually a raw black metal band by the name of Wargeist. And I'm going to be talking about specifically the EP Ungalent or Ungalent. This is a German raw black metal. As you can tell by Fangorn, if we've got any Tolkien fans, they're going to be watching this. from what I understand, Ungoliant is the mother of Shelob, the great spider who jabs Frodo. Um, and I actually got hip to this band um, through one of their older releases, their full length here. I will spare you my trying to pronounce that. Um, but what I found in this is more synth driven raw black metal, which is kind of rare. Typically, I would say, raw black metal, while having synths, it's not typically, the main force behind the sound. Um, but what I found is the drums and the guitar all come, behind the synths in this release. And I thought it was really well done. The synths are really atmospheric. I would say if you're going to give anyone a listen, there's 2 tracks, both 10 minutes. Fangorn is my favorite here. So if you're looking to maybe step into raw black metal or even dungeon synth, I would give that a listen. I found it really intriguing. And it's just a really well done release, I thought. Morgeist has become, kind of one of those well-known sort of cult underground bands. And I thought this release was, really good. And from what I understand, is just become a pattern from this band, just releasing all pretty good stuff.
Nice. Awesome. Where did you say that they were from?
Germany.
That's right. Okay.
I believe Essen, Germany, I want to say.
Right.
Let's make sure. Oh, Hesse, Germany.
Okay. Awesome. My number 8 is they're kind of hard to describe, but I would say they're like blackened death metal out of Helsinki, Finland. And this is, the band is Desolate Shrine. And the album is Fires of This Dying World. And one of my favorite album cover arts of the year. It came with the poster, and I don't always hang them up, but I think I'm going to hang this one up. Very creepy. I kind of think of them as like mature death metal, similar to bands like Grave Miasma. Also Diabolizer, if for anybody who might know what that band is. I actually think I saw your dad show Diabolizer before, maybe even Desolate Shrine before, but just riffy, HM2-ish guitar tone, but a little bit heavier. I'm kind of picky about HM2. I either I love it or I hate it, and this is on the part I love it. So yeah, very like kind of I just think of them as mature, sort of thoughtful death metal. There are synth layers, and I'm picky about synth. It doesn't bother me at all. There are like acoustic guitar moments that also fit quite well with the mood. So yeah, just a strong release. I did not know this band before this year, and I went back and I heard all of the releases, and I like them all. So yeah, Desolate Shrine from Finland, which has an amazing death metal scene right now. Like I almost like every band I hear from Finland. So that's been fun.
Very spooky cover.
Yeah, it is
very spooky.
Yeah, it is spooky. And that's the music. That's what the music sounds like.
Nice. So next up for me, this is a black metal band that is very approachable, in my opinion. A band called Heltekvad out of Copenhagen, Denmark. They play melodic black metal, specifically centered around medieval times. Naturally, when I think of medieval black metal, I always think of Ungfell. And this is kind of that same, general area. I mean, this cover is awesome right here. I like to think of myself as a medievalist somewhat. So anything medieval, I'm usually all in on. It's a 3-piece. This is actually their first full length, and I mean, it's spectacular. I think it's a really great melodic black metal piece. Um, Typically, I'm not crazy about melodic black metal, but this really hit the mark for me. Um, this person rated as an 86%. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. So
Right.
that's right around there. But all in all, a really great release. And like I said, if you're somebody that doesn't listen to black metal a lot, finds it too harsh, things like that, this would be a great release to check out. And I believe this came out relatively recently. Oh, March 25th, 2022. I know there was some that I have on my list that just came out in July.
Right.
So they're going to rear their heads here in a second. And I'm not even going to try and pronounce the album title. Sorry about it.
Yeah.
But that is too bad. And like I said, I mean, if anybody is trying to get into black metal, I would definitely, obviously look to more melodic stuff.
Right.
Should fit that bill pretty
Do is Immortal melodic black metal to you?
I wouldn't categorize them as melodic.
Okay.
I see that more as like that kind of like, especially the earlier stuff, that kind of like Marduk, like Onslaught style black metal.
Yeah, the earlier stuff for sure. Right.
Which is the stuff I'm really into. I really, if there's a blast, I'm really into blasts. So, I would compare it. I'm not sure how I would characterize that style. I think Onslaught is a good way to describe
it. Yeah, I agree with you. The first few albums.
Just complete mayhem.
Right.
Crazy guitar riffs, pounding drums, like I said.
Right.
Super high tempos.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I would describe them as melodic. Definitely more so later on.
Right, like At the Heart of Darkness is kind of what I was thinking of.
I was just about to mention that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't so much categorize them as melodic, I would say.
Okay, sounds good to me. So I have a black metal album here at number 7, and this is Nachachwin with Kanawa Black. And
I haven't heard this one. I'm interested.
It's out on Vine Rune Recordings, which is Marty Worm's record label. And yeah, this album blew me away. Let me pull up some of the details. So they are so overall, it's a 2-man project out of West Virginia. I believe Aaron is the main songwriter, but there they both are.
Nice.
It's like neoclassical black metal with some folk elements, and I did not expect to love this album as much as I did and do. Very clean guitar tone, and the guitar, it's all about the guitars for me. I mean, all of it's great, but Aaron's guitar playing style, both the like neoclassical moments and the heavier black metal moments, are just like what am I looking for? Just excellent, just top tier playing, and the lyrical content is about nature and also Native American history. In that part of West Virginia, Kanawha is a river, and yeah, it even has some of that like classic heavy metal appeal to it, which again isn't always something that appeals to me, but somehow this album, yeah, I would say this album on paper is something I wouldn't enjoy typically, and I was hooked from the very first song. And there's even some death metal style in the vocal approach sometimes, and maybe the tremolos a little bit. But I would consider it definitely a neoclassical black metal, post black metal folk album. in general. Just very excellent songwriting. I wouldn't change anything about it.
That sounds really cool, actually. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to look
I
that up.
think you will. I think you will like this for sure.
I especially love because as I grew up in North Carolina, Appalachian Mountains,
Right.
or in North Carolina, obviously. So any kind of music that has ties to the Appalachian Mountains
Yeah.
always has a little soft spot for me.
Right. For sure.
I've found.
That's cool. Yeah, and
Um,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna just say like
No,
yeah,
you go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
sure. The melodies themselves, you know, somehow sound they sound like like Americana almost, but like not the way that the Pacific Northwest bands kind of make you feel.
Gotcha. Kind of like
I know,
folkish a little bit.
yeah, very folkish and like timeless in a way, but also you know what time period it comes from. You know, it's hard to talk about this stuff, but like,
Right.
yeah, I haven't heard a lot of stuff like this, and I was blown away, and yeah, I'm happy to say that I found this album this year.
So, like I said, I'm definitely going to check that
Yeah,
out.
I think you'll like that a lot, Cody.
So, kind of change it up a little. I don't often listen to what I would describe as war metal, but Altar of Gore caught my eye earlier in the year. There's two releases that have the same name, which I found kind of confusing. I'm going to stick to the demo here. This is Altar of Gore's Infinite Visions of Violence. They're categorized as black death metal. I definitely get a war metal vibe from this. Came out January 7th, 2022, so very early in the year. If you're looking for something like Conqueror, this isn't it. This is more along the lines of Antichrist Siege Machine a little bit. So it's a little better production, and it doesn't have, that typical, like I already said, it has better production. So,
Right.
I mean, going from something like Conqueror, Blasphemy to Antichrist Siege Machine, there's obviously differences with the same kind of war metal similarities. But this is really good. If you're into death metal, definitely check this out. It's definitely got the death metal kind of guitar tone to it with the sort of black metal playing.
Right.
And I just found it really intriguing and interesting. It's a two-piece. Like I said, they're out of New Jersey. Features a Hellhammer cover. Here's a look at the cover here. Just brutal stuff. You get that kind of death metal vibe from that, which is another thing for me. I'm kind of grossed out by gore.
Right.
Altar of Gore, obviously, so joke's on me. But
It is.
even in my horror movies, I'm more of an atmospheric horror fan than a Saw horror fan. I don't want to see the gore. I want to be, titillated somewhat.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. But Altar of Gore, really good stuff. This is a demo. I don't know if I said that. There is like I said, there is two releases under the same name that both came out this year. Like I said, which is rather strange. I believe this compilation features the demo as well. Let's just make sure here. It seems like my internet is going very slow. Yeah, same songs. Looks like they've got some extra ones on there. An Impetigo cover. So if any, I mean, Hellhammer, Impetigo. I mean, that's pretty fair. It sounds like as far as influences go, and like I said, that kind of old war metal influences there as well. So if you're into any of that stuff, I would definitely check this out. I found it really cool. And like I said, I don't typically listen to a lot of war metal, but when it's well done, I definitely am willing to listen to it for sure.
You had me at Antichrist Siege Machine, so I'll definitely be checking out that band.
It's
So
definitely in that same vein, like I
that's
said.
cool. Right.
Better production,
Right.
but still has that just ferocity to it for sure.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to check that out. That sounds right up my. That sounds relevant to my interest. So my next choice, I'm going to have to try to share my screen too. So let's see if this works. Chrome tab. Yeah. So this is a band that I cannot pronounce. Either they're out the band name or their album title, really. But
Yeah.
so this is Zompantli from California, and the album title I'm not even going to try at all. But this is atmospheric death doom, really groovy, really riffy, kind of by the numbers in a certain sense. Like it's not avant-garde, it's not progressive, but it's just it clobbers you and pulverizes you. And I like the riffing style. More of like the riffing style comes out as you listen to it more and more. And there's a couple of moments of sort of more traditional, like a drum, like bongo drums, that kind of create the atmosphere. And uh, yeah, kind of, I would say, for fans of that band Siveris, which is out on Transcending Obscure, no, Transylvanian Recordings record label, and I think $20 Spin just picked them up too. But just extremely heavy death doom, very low guttural vocals the entire time. I just I enjoy listening to it. And yeah, that's my number 6.
I remember when that first came out, I made up my mind I was going to listen to it, and I just never got around to it
Right.
for some reason.
Yeah.
It's indigenous, isn't it? I wanted to say I saw that at least some of the members were indigenous.
Yeah, I think that's true. I just didn't want to say that for sure, but I think that is true. I think it's pretty. They're one of them is also in the band. Well, I forgot the band name right now. Of course, I can actually find that out real quick. But yeah, I can't say if you will love it or not. It depends how much taste you have for solid death doom. But I think you will at least. I think you will at least enjoy giving it a listen for sure.
Yeah.
The band that I was thinking of, the vocalist, guitarist, bass player of Zompantli is also in the band Shibalba. And
oh yeah. They're really good. I like their stuff. I have one of their albums.
There you go. So it sounds like them doing death doom, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So next up for me, this is a super weird one, and I completely forgot how I stumbled upon this release. But this is Ordegort. And as you can tell by the genre, it is just way out there. Black and thrash, heavy metal, punk. Typically, when I see the word punk in any sort of genre, I turn my head and run away. But I didn't do that for this project. The only thing they have out right now is this demo, which has this really bizarre cover. I think that's kind of what drew me to it. No idea what's going on there, but I mean that made me click on. I think I saw it on Bandcamp for the first time, but when I saw that, I was like, well, if anything, that is gonna just force me to listen to it, regardless of how it sounds. But I mean, it works. It's really good. Control is probably my favorite on the demo. It's a 3-piece. I don't get overtly punk. From it, I would say it's more like black and thrash, um, with kind of heavy metal and punk sprinkled a little bit, um, sparingly, I guess I would say. Um, but I found it really interesting and nothing. It's not one of these cookie cutter releases that you're going to
Mm,
hear, 50 times in a year or something. This is one of those
right.
releases that you're going to hear this year, and then you're not going to hear it again until they release something else, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
that's cool.
Demo by Ordigort.
Order.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they're from Belgium. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Right.
But definitely worth checking out. Really interesting listen.
It's like a sad goat man, like goat man hybrid.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'll check that out. Uh, Number 5, I believe, for me is, speaking of gore, but not. It's more slimy than gore.
Fair
Yes.
enough.
This is the band Cryptworm with Spewing Mephitic Putridity. The album art is exactly why I clicked play on it the first time. Uh, for me, it's like perfect artwork, pretty cool layout, and yeah, it sounds like what the album artwork tells you it's going to sound like cerebral rot, very gross, uh, uh, mostly mid-tempo, groovy death metal. But uh, I, the more I listened to it, I felt like it was delivering something a bit more sophisticated than even like than you would expect. Like the drumming is top tier. They get a little faster sometimes, so it's almost like death grind. And then they have these really abrupt tempo changes that turn into like these doomier moments. And I like to see them explore their more those elements more on future albums. But yeah, I like that style of a lot of bands sound like this nowadays. But I like that style of old school murky death metal. Uh, it's maybe overplayed, but right now, but this is one of the best versions of that I've heard over the last few years. If you're a fan of Undergang, Cerebral Rot, uh, maybe Carcass too, uh, in in early Carcass, but yeah, the vocals you can't understand at all, but they're lower in the mix. Uh, but yeah, it's catchy, gross old school death metal. That's Cryptworm. I don't remember where they're from. I do have a note here though. They are from the United Kingdom. Um, so yeah, that's Cryptworm, my number 5.
Well, like I said, I'm going to check that out as well because I love Cerebral Rot and
Okay.
Undergang.
Okay.
It's one of the first, kind of underground extreme bands that I got into.
Right.
So that definitely sounds like something that I'd be interested
That's
in.
cool. It took me a while to get into Undergang, and like I just for some reason like I just kept trying, and then they really clicked for me, and I think they're probably actually one of my favorite modern death metal bands. Just yeah, I like Undergang a lot.
Did I cut out?
You're back. You're here. Okay, so Cody and I were having some technical difficulties, but we figured this is a good place to end part 1. It's already a long video, and then we will jump back on and do the rest of our top 10 albums releases of the year so far. So I can say for Heavy Therapy, this is Patrick. Thanks for watching, and look for part 2. It should be out if you're seeing this video right now. Thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe.